Welcome back, guys. Today I'm bringing you a tutorial on the new Create Mod train signals. Let's get into it. So what I have here is one of the most basic intersections that you can have with the train tracks, which is just a simple crossroads. Now, if you were to have trains going on here whenever they wanted, there's a possibility for collision, of course. And the purpose of train signals is to stop that. So if I hold the train signal in my hand, you can see that these lines come up on the tracks, and right now it's yellow, but there are other colors for them. And if I wanted to place a train signal, if I wanted a train to go this direction, I place a train signal on the track, and as you can see, it kind of splits the track into two sections now, which is the green section and the yellow section. Now I'm going to split the track up into 5 sections here. So you have 4 yellow sections and 1 green section in the middle. Now the purpose of these sections is to basically tell any train that wants to enter a section that this current section must be clear to allow entry. So for example, if this green section had a train in it, any train that's coming from any direction would not be able to enter the green section or even pass through the green section until the green section is clear. So here I have another example of another type of intersection that you can have, and this is a splitting intersection. So a good rule of thumb when you're doing your own train signals is to put a signal before and after every intersection. So before, after, and after. So this is ideally what you would want to do. This makes sure that no 2 trains can be in this section, this green section, at the same time. But it also means that once the train leaves the green section, immediately once it's out of the intersection, the next train can come in. So it leaves little space for holdups. Now there's another type of intersection that you can have, which is a merging intersection. So if I have tracks coming in here, now what I would want to do is have 2 going into the intersection instead of 1, and 1 going out of the intersection. So same concept. Same concept. I have train signals on the beginning of the intersection and the end of the intersection. You can also see there's like a little yellow in there, but that is just a small little piece. So this is the basic concept that you're going to want to apply. Basically, this just ensures that no 2 trains will ever collide with each other. Now, you can make it more efficient by putting less signals in some situations, but if you're new to this, I suggest just putting signals before and after every intersection. So before I get into any of the more complicated intersections, I want to first preface by saying that I will be using the right-hand driving. So all trains will be going on the right side of the track. Each track, although you can do 2-way tracks in the Create Mod, for the purposes of this video, I'll only be using 1-way, and it will be on the right side. This also includes signals, so when I place a signal down, unless something is obstructing it, I will always place it on the right side, which is just standard for right side driving. If you were left side driving, you can place it on left side. It's the same exact thing, you just need to mirror what I'm about to show you. Alright, so let's get on with the first intersection. So here I have a basic intersection. It's just a crossroads. There's no switching of lanes. There's only one direction that each train can go in. And as you can see, if you actually focus on one of the smaller 4-way intersections, it is the exact same as the example I showed before. You have one going into the intersection, one going out, which also serves as the in for the next intersection, and then an out for the next intersection. And this happens for all 4 lanes with 3 signals each. Now if I pull out the train signal here, you can see the different sections that are made. You know you've done it right if you can see 4 sections in the center. Let's say that I forgot these 2, or actually let's do these 2. So let's say I forgot these 2. You can see I have 2 colors in the middle now. This would eventually lock up. So if, for example, if I get into this train here and I am going along and for some reason I stop in this blue section, we'll wait for another train to come along. Alright, so as you can see here, let's just focus on these two small trains here. You can see that this bronze train, or whatever color this is, cannot pass through, even though the way is clear. And that's because if I look at the train signal path, you can see that the blue section is taken up by the train that I have placed here. That means even this unobstructed intersection is not allowed to be gone through. So this train here will not pass through the blue because it thinks that you want it to be locked because there's already a train in this section. So if I were to place a signal right here, you'd see that now that the blue is split off from the previous section, that train could pass through. And similar to this side, if I move this train, you can see that everything will clear up nicely. So that is how this four-way intersection here works. If you wanted to just copy it, I'll leave it on the screen just for a couple seconds. You can also pause the video if you'd like. But other than that, it shouldn't be too hard to understand. Now let's move on to a three-way intersection. So it looks a little more complicated, and it is a little more complicated, sadly. But what makes this more complicated is the fact that trains have multiple directions they can go. Whereas with the original intersection, trains only had one direction to choose from, and that would be straight. This intersection allows trains to go in two directions. So for example, here, they could take a right or a left. This makes it a little more complicated with signals, but I'm going to explain it. Hopefully, it's pretty simple to understand. Now, you can also see that I'm using the same concepts as before. Every singular intersection, so a merge, a split, a merge, crossroads, you have a rail signal before and after. So here I have before and after. And then, for example, this merge, I have before and after. This central part here, because there are so many crossing tracks, you kind of just want to split it off from every outer merging and splitting area. So for example, this train just went through. You don't want this green part to be part of any outer tracks. So because the reason that that's important is because let's say a train comes up to the intersection and wants to go left, like that other train, and at the same time a train is coming from the opposite direction taking a right. You notice how those two rails never cross paths. But if you didn't have this cut off from each other, then one of the trains would stop and wait for the other, even though there's no chance of collision. So that's what these two signals are doing specifically. But this central area, the way that I have it set up, which is basically just using the rules from before, where you put before and after, and if you look around all here, it's all the same. So before and after, like here, before and after, and then all of the signals are cutting it off from the mess of tracks in the middle. So this is, I think, as efficient as you can get. You could probably get rid of some of the outer signals, but for the time being, that is pretty much the best that you can do. So I'll leave it up on the screen for a moment here, just so you can copy it. You can also pause the video once again. So here what I have is another four-way intersection, but this time trains have the option to split off. So for example, if there's a train coming this direction, I can go straight, I could take a right, or I could take, whoopsie, I could take a left. Oh my god. But basically, it makes it extremely complicated. And if you would notice that I didn't actually put a lot of signals on this one. That's because once you get to a certain complexity, the amount of signals that you would need to place and deal with is so insane that just allowing one train in the entire intersection at a time, like you can see here, is good enough. Like those two trains would not have collided, yet it still waited. You can definitely signal this intersection and it would work efficiently, but with how tight the tracks that I've made here are, it would just be an insane mess of trying to place these signals in the tracks here. You see I can barely even like get the right track. So there's definitely some optimization to be done here, but in most scenarios, you're not going to have so many trains that it's important to be that efficient. You could also do this kind of intersection signaling with any intersection. So let's say for this four-way intersection over here, if I took out all the middle signals, you can see that the central area is one color, which is perfectly fine. And as you can see, they're still going to wait for each other. And you can see here, even though these two trains would never collide, it still waits for each other. And that's perfectly fine. There will be no lockups with this system, whereas before it could lock up. So this is actually better than just having two like this. So you got to do all four or just none. I would suggest with a simple scenario like this doing all four, but when you have a lot of crisscrossing and merging and splitting, just doing the outer signaling works just fine. So finally, I just want to go over what you can do for stations. Now, of course, if you really wanted to, you could have a station like this where there is no cutoff rail and it just stops in the middle. But sometimes when you're having a train that might be at a stop for 5-10 minutes, unloading or loading something, and other trains need to get by, that will become a big issue. So what I've done over here is I've cut off part of the track. I've put the station on the side, and I have a through lane that merges back up. Now I've used the same concepts that I've talked about before. You have one before and after on a splitter, before and after on a merge, but you can also do something just a little bit more efficient if that matters to you. You could have only 3 signals, so 1 going into the station, and then 2 going into the merge. Basically, what this makes happen is if you have a train that is just wanting to pass through, it can still do that. It also allows the train that comes into the station to be completely undisturbed by, as you can see here, 2 trains need to come into the station. So it'll wait just like here, and it'll work the exact same, but you're using less. And it won't kind of blockade this throughput lane if there is something blocking it, just so your trains can get a little bit further before you figure out what the issue is. So that's one going into the station and one going out, and also a merger on the straight path. So if you're having trouble with train signals, just remember, put one before and after an intersection or merge or split, and that should be pretty good. Other than that, if you really want to get good at this, just go into creative mode, test things out, and you'll start to understand it better. But other than that, I hope you liked the video. If you have any questions or anything I missed, put it down in the comments. But I'll see you next time.